And so, another superstar goes down to injury. I can't take another one, but does this give weight to LeBron's complaints about the schedule, or are you on the side of Shaq? You're making tons of money, stop complaining. Which one is it? As far as Chris Paul goes, it is time to go and seal the deal in terms of that legacy. We need that ring. Plus, Ja Morant, Memphis Grizzlies, he's coming through. We're going to talk about that young team. And you know, I picked them to beat the Warriors. Don't forget, I was the only analyst that did that. Oh yeah, Perk did it too. He's also here. Me, Perk, Charlie, we're getting after it on First Take. Let's go, y'all.
The news tonight that Trae Young is out.
And Giannis is grabbing toward his left knee area.
Oh my, the Eastern Conference Finals may see a gigantic turning point here.
We got to do the little things. We got to turn their pressure against them.
Keeping that pressure on these guys for 48 minutes.
Here's Williams for three. Floats it to the rim, turns and flushes.
We just need to settle in a little bit.
Open three. That's good. It's a 20-point Atlanta lead. Oh my, it's Atlanta's night.
It was one of those nights. Everybody played with confidence.
We were super confident, man. That's what it's all about.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome on into First Take. I'm Charlie Arnold. We got Monica McNutt stunting in the neon green here in studio with me. Thank goodness.
It's good to be here.
I know.
I love being in person.
I didn't even realize you were going to be here. So when I saw you just blazing down the hallway in this thing, very happy. Kendrick Perkins also going to be here with us for the next 2 hours, but we'll get to him in just a second. Monica, we have seen injuries plague the NBA postseason. Already knew that Hawks' Trae Young was going to be out of Game 4 with a bruised bone in his right foot. But then last night, another star goes down. Two-time MVP Giannis Antetokounmpo suffering what the Bucks are calling right now a hyperextended left knee last night. With just over 7 minutes left in the third quarter, Giannis jumped up to contest an alley-oop and then landed awkwardly on his left leg, causing his knee to buckle. Without their star player, the Bucks were routed 110-88 as the Atlanta Hawks tied up the series 2-2.
He's in the locker room with the guys and just addressed the group and, but nothing, above and beyond or, we'll see how he is tomorrow.
It's not great, but it's an opportunity for somebody else and everybody else to step up. It's the Eastern Conference Finals. There's no excuses. It doesn't matter whoever's playing, who's not playing. They got guys out. Everybody's hurt. Everybody's banged up. Everybody has injuries. You got to fight through it and win.
It's really unfortunate. Giannis is going to undergo imaging today to determine the extent of his injury, but there is a good chance he could miss Game 5. So, Monica, which Buck is going to have to step up in Giannis' absence should that be the case?
Charlie, well, the honest answer is the entire unit has to step up. Anytime you lose a star, it is a replacement by collective. But I'm looking in particular at Drew Holiday and Lopez for me. When you look at the way things will shift, it now becomes Holiday as a playmaker and a scorer, and of course, Chris Middleton. To me, because the defense of the Hawks will no longer have to account for the way that Giannis feels the paint, and prior to his injury last night, we saw the way that they were forming that wall and protecting the paint. You're now going to need some of your role players to be in position to knock down shots when Middleton creates, when Holiday attacks. And so to me, that's Brook Lopez. We could go down the list, really. That also includes Connaughton, that includes Tucker, guys that are willing to hit shots when the defense can now adjust to send more than one body to either Holiday or to Middleton. And so this is going to be an interesting test for this Bucks squad. We have a interesting example that we just saw in terms of what the Hawks were able to do without Trae Young. I know I'm following the score on my phone. I had a flight last night. Get off the flight. And I'm like, wait a minute. The Hawks beat the Bucks without Trae Young?
No one was expecting that.
No one was expecting that. And so the idea that you still don't have a roster filled with NBA professionals, that's very dismissive of how talented these guys are. However, Giannis is a two-time MVP. He obviously is the head of the snake when it comes to this Bucks squad. They are a much better team with him than without him. But can they get a win? And hopefully he can get back on the floor. I do believe so.
Okay, and Kendrick now here with us. So Kendrick, what do you think?
You know what? I just can't believe Monica is taking it so lightly to start the morning off and not addressing the issue like my saying. The numbers on the house. Here it is. Chris Middleton is getting paid. He has signed a contract for 5 years, $177 million, okay? Drew Holiday signed the extension for 5 years, $160. Those guys are getting paid the big bucks. Last time I checked, the Bucks had a big three, and it was Giannis, Chris Middleton, and Drew Holiday. So that now that Giannis is out, I expect Chris Middleton to elevate his game. I expect him to have consistency. I expect him to go out there and average 30. I witnessed it last year against the Miami Heat down in the bubble when Giannis was injured. Chris Middleton rose to the occasion. Drew Holiday, they traded Eric Bledsoe for you. You're the common denominator. They gave you a contract extension. You were told this is the guy that's supposed to move the needle. Now that Giannis is hurt, I'm putting all the ownership on those two guys to elevate their game and get them past this Atlanta Hawks team, especially with an injured Trae Young.
Good morning, Pat. Who you yelling at first thing in the morning? You yelling at me or you yelling about the situation?
Well, first of all, I tried to talk to you earlier, but you couldn't hear me or you was ignoring me before the show started. Nah, don't get sassy this morning, okay?
All right, listen. We agree in that they are the big three. Middleton and Holiday are obviously the other two healthy players, that make up that big three. But Perk, my thing is, if we trust that those guys are going to do what they're supposed to do, like you always say, it now becomes that much more important that the others are able to show up because the defensive attention that Giannis garners can now be shifted to Middleton or Holiday, who do not have the overwhelming physical presence. So all I'm saying is when Middleton steps up, when Holiday steps up, the others have to be prepared to step up as well, whether that's on the glass, whether that's the defensive effort, and particularly on the offensive end, because they have to be legitimate scoring threats in order to create those lanes. Because those two, the other two of the big three, are not as overwhelming in the paint. That's all I'm saying.
No, I agree with you. Look, and we have to realize that Brook Lopez is a guy that you could still go to on the low block. He's a guy that's capable of having 25 and 13 points in the game. He's still that good. But when I look at Chris Middleton and I look at Drew Holiday without Giannis, now all of a sudden some ownership has to go on Mike Budenholzer. He has to redraw up his playbook. He has to put those guys in position to be successful. He has to come to the table like Ty Lue did to Paul George. He had a meeting with Paul George and he said, you know what? When I go to the steakhouse, I don't want to just eat salad and appetizers. I want the filet. I want the corn creme brulee, whatever it's called. I want the sauteed spinach. I want the whole meal. So with that being said, at the end of the day, Monica, look, Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday, they're getting paid the big bucks. And when you get paid the big bucks, you got to deliver in great fashion.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
He's not wrong. Okay, look, ESPN's BPI gives the Milwaukee Bucks a 48% chance to win the NBA title if Giannis is healthy to play for them the rest of the way. Only a 23% chance should he not be able to play. Ooh. So that's a big, drastic change in numbers there. So we wish Giannis the best. Hope to see him in Game 5. But let's look at the other side of things, because with Trae Young sidelined, the Bucks looked to Lou Williams. Months ago was considering retirement to fill the void, and he delivered. In his first playoff start of his career, he put up 21 points, 5 rebounds, and 8 assists, allowing the Hawks to never trail all game and tying the series up in a dominating fashion. So how about them Hawks, Lou?
When Trae goes down, we still feel like we're confident in our abilities as players as well. Obviously, Trae is a major part of what we do, but we feel really good about the things that we bring to the table. And sometimes you got to band together and create success. And I think tonight was one of those nights where everybody played well, everybody chipped in a little more than usual, including myself, and we bridged that gap that Trae brings.
Yeah, it was remarkable success. Perk, what did this game say about the Hawks?
It said a lot. First of all, we already know that Lou Will is a walking bucket. He's a true professional. You could drop him anywhere in America. I don't care if it's at the LA Fitness, the Wellness Center, wherever. He's going to get buckets. We know that, right? He's a pro's pro. But at the end of the day, we have to give credit to Nate McMillan. I thought he did a great job of having his troops ready to play. Even before Giannis went out the game, the Hawks' defense was on point like Rondo. I mean, they were loaded up, boxes and elbows, not giving up any driving gaps, contesting everything, playing hard, running through a wall for Nate McMillan, sharing the ball offensively. They were playing beautiful basketball on both ends of the floor. So what that goes to show me is that Nate McMillan has the attention of that locker room. A voice in that locker room matters. Who said that coaching doesn't matter in the NBA? I heard a couple people say it in the beginning of the season. I would not say their name. Kyrie, Kevin Durant. Coaches does matter, and Nate McMillan is showing a prime example of that right now.
Coaching definitely matters. I agree with you 100%. But I also think, Perk, and it's weird, I will admit, as a part of the Knicks coverage team, I was too close to this team to really give them their flowers at the beginning of this playoffs run. But this is a team that is very similar in mindset to me, to the team that we called in our guest a little later in the show, that Memphis Grizzlies squad. They are young, they are confident, they are talented. I think people sometimes skipped over the length that the Atlanta Hawks have. They overlooked the shooting that the Atlanta Hawks have. They shot 50% as a team from the field last night. And in particular, when you get a guy like Bogdanovic back on track, knocking down threes, I mean, as important as Trey is, if it's not a lob or a floater, it's usually a pass somewhere to Red Velvet and Kevin Huerter, shout out to the Maryland Terps, my DMV area, or to Bogdanovic. And so Bogdanovic getting back on track, to me, was a huge part of this ballgame. And we absolutely hope Trey returns. But I think when you look at this Atlanta Hawks squad, they have been 6-2 in clutch time victories, right? Down the stretch of this postseason. They have the most clutch victories. So there is nothing about this squad that shrinks from the moment. And that's something that might not show up on the box score, but as you watch the makeup of this team, how confident Trey was coming into this thing, talking about how everyone had overlooked that squad. Listen, I will be the first to admit, I overlooked the Atlanta Hawks. I am no longer overlooking them.
I don't think anyone is.
Well, look, I'm going to say this to you, Charlie and Monica. One is that, Monica, look, I know you came dressed the first take looking like it's a Sunday on Mother's Day, but I didn't know you was going to drop the
get on my
gospel
nerves
like that this morning. That's the first thing. Second of all, look, I was rolling with the Hawks. I had faith in the Hawks. I rolled with the Hawks in the first series, the second series. I just didn't think that they had enough experience. They are surprising me right now. What they're doing right now for us, Clint Capella anchoring their defense, Kevin Huerter, I mean, he is relentless. And Bogdanovic finally found his stroke back. He had been missing for a while. He hadn't been playing meaningful minutes. John Collins has finally bought into who he is and not trying to go outside his body. And God knows, whoever thought that Gallinari, a guy that I probably could beat in a foot race, will be out there giving buckets to people right now the way that he is. I mean, he's dunking the ball, snatching the screws out the rim. Much credit to the Atlanta Hawks and what they've done, but Nate McMillan has done an unbelievable job with this team.
Perk, let me ask you this, obviously, because you have the experience in this space. Not that teams overlook teams, right? You're supposed to know, and y'all are the brotherhood of NBA players and would not disrespect teams in that way. But to me, for a Bucks squad with Giannis to come out as lackluster as they did last night, it felt like they too were disrespecting this Hawks team. So do you sense some of that from a Bucks squad that many of us feel like, look, Bud's seat is hot if they don't get to the finals, and they still last night had an opportunity and weren't able to capitalize?
Well, you know, we have this saying, and I'm pretty sure you're familiar with it. It's called the basketball guards. And one thing, they're always watching. You cannot cheat the game. You cannot just show up. You cannot just come to the basketball arena and just show up. You got to respect your opponent. The Bucks did not do that. They were not playing hard last night. And at the end of the day, the Atlanta Hawks hit first, and I watched the game from the start to the finish. And what I saw an inspiring Atlanta Hawks team saying, hey, we're not afraid of you. We have a point to prove, which goes back to coaching again. But look, I will say this. The Milwaukee Bucks is probably the most frustrating team to watch in NBA history. Some of the plays that they do, some of the turnovers that they have is just so disturbing to watch. You ask yourself, why? I coach a 9-year-old team that my son play on, and they don't make the careless turnovers that the Milwaukee Bucks do. They just play dumb basketball, and I think sometimes it ends up hurting them in the long run.
The other thing we have to mention in this conversation, I should look up the stat. but the Atlanta Hawks had on the blessed MLK jerseys last night. And so when they got the ancestors on their side, things happen. And they were absolutely ready to play. And so I just think that this Hawks squad is very good, and it feels organic. I'm not saying they're about to be the next dynasty in the way that the Golden State Warriors were, but in terms of a squad that has done it through their draft process, developed their guys, it feels like we might be on to something from Atlanta.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we remember what happened when the Lakers wore the Mamba jerseys. That brought them good luck, too. So there is something to be said about the wardrobe choices. Okay, now, should Giannis miss a game due to injury, he becomes the 10th All-Star to miss a playoff game. That is the most in league history, with the previous high being 6. This season's list also includes Anthony Davis, James Harden, Kyrie Irving, Kawhi Leonard, and Chris Paul, just to name a few. Trae Young, not on the list, as he was not an All-Star this season. So, with so many All-Stars unable to contribute throughout the postseason, is this a legit championship perk?
Yes. And look, injuries happen. You can go back and look through the history of the NBA. Injuries happen. The great Tim Duncan said you need a little bit of luck, right? And sometimes, unfortunately, that luck happens to be the opponents getting hurt. It happens in the NBA. It happens in the world of sports. So at the end of the day, no one could question this championship. We're seeing new faces. We're seeing guys rise to the occasion like DeAndre Ayton. We're watching the emergence of Devin Booker, Trae Young, Herder. We're watching all these guys have this platform, and they're taking advantage of it, and they're competing at the highest level. So, and Paul George has found himself again. So at the end of the day, yes, this championship is all the way legit to whoever wins it.
I'm going to take y'all behind the veil just a little bit. This morning in our production meeting, when this question was posed, I legitimately was disturbed and confused. Why wouldn't it be legit? Well, I don't understand. How can we now begin to say, because of injuries, a championship doesn't count? First, y'all wanted to complain about the bubble being a popcorn Mickey Mouse championship. Now we're on to injuries robbing us of championships. This is absolutely ridiculous.
Right.
Like, this is just outside of my ability to comprehend when it comes to sports. Injuries are absolutely a part of the game. It does have to do with luck. Perk, I love that quote. If you dismiss this championship because of injuries, then you should just relinquish your right to call yourself a sports fan, because this is part of the game. And I tell you one thing, none of those guys, if Chris Paul goes on to still win it, none of those guys that were injured would begrudge their team. No player is saying it doesn't count because of injuries. Now, a little later on, we're getting into some of the things that LeBron has to say. Does it cause us maybe to look at how things were done this year? I will give you that. But to say that this doesn't count, like what planet are you on? No, absolutely not. This counts.
I mean, and we just saw a prime example of it last night. Superstar Trae Young was out, a guy who's probably averaging around 33 points in this series. Their superstar, the head of their snake, is out. And what the Hawks do before Giannis even went out? They were up double digits. They come out and they strike. So at the end of the day, I don't want to hear that. You can miss me with everything that's going on. We watching guys like Cam Reddish, who haven't played in 4 months because he was injured, come in off the bench and have a serious impact. I mean, he was strapping Chris Middleton so tight like he was tying up a pair of winter boots last night. That's how much he was on him. So at the end of the day, I don't want to hear. You can miss me with that. It's always a problem. It's always some type of question, or someone always trying to move the goalposts or throw out this narrative when it comes down to why this championship or this championship should be legit. Or no, all championships are legit, no matter the circumstance.
Now, as a fan, we will give you room to say, if my team, insert injury, did not happen, it would have been different. We all can do that. That's part of our consumption of sport. But the record will stand. The champion of 2021 is whoever is going to be, injuries or not. Sorry.
Well, Charlie and Monica, I'm gonna say this, and one last point. I was on the 2010 team with the Boston Celtics when we played the Los Angeles Lakers. Our starting five went healthy. We never lost the playoff series. I tore my ACL in Game 6. People still to this day talk about man, if Perk would have played in Game 7, we would have won a championship. Well, I didn't play in the Game 7, and Kobe Bryant won his 5th championship with the Los Angeles Lakers. It is part of the game. It happens. And by the way, in that Game 7, we were up 14 going into the 4th quarter. So at the end of the day, I don't want to hear about, oh, if Perk would have played or this person would have played. No, at the end of the day, all these guys are true professionals. They get paid a lot of money from top to bottom to go out there and perform. Strap your boots up. These championships are legit.
Well, Perk, we still wish you would have played in that Game 7. But you know who you sound a lot like right now? You sound like Shaq. And that's a guy whose comments we're going to get to later on in the show because he responds to LeBron. And we all know how LeBron went on that rant the other week. But we do got to move on because we have a lot more that we also have to get to because Ty Lue sure does seem to enjoy being down 3-1.